that, well, I don't have a degree in education. How can I teach my kid? Ready for this? Who taught your kid to walk? Who taught your kid to talk? Who taught your kid manners? Who taught your kid, think about before they even start school, how much stuff you teach your kids. Are you kidding me? So it's a way to keep parents limited and in bondage, because the number of things that we learn from our parents that don't have teaching degrees, in my opinion, the most valuable stuff that we learn in life is from our parents who don't have master's degree in education and PhDs from Harvard or Yale or whatever. That's a bunch of crap. Like, we teach our kids so much. So just embrace that. No, you are a teacher. You're an amazing, you are the best teacher for your kids, in my opinion, because no one knows your kids like you do.
Welcome to the EQ for Entrepreneurs podcast. Like most business owners, you already know you need good business and marketing strategies to scale and be profitable. But at some point, you've hit the dreaded wall where you feel stuck and frustrated. EQ for Entrepreneurs is for business owners and leaders who are honest enough to admit that they just might be the ones holding their business back and are brave enough to change that.
We're Noble and Kathy, and every week we're having candid conversations about all things emotional intelligence and how growing that has allowed us to get out of our own way and is radically transforming both our businesses and our personal lives. This is the secret sauce strategy for modern entrepreneurs who are tired of hustling without seeing results and want to grow a business and a life that they love.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you for having us. And I'm super stoked for the Let's Raise Emotionally Intelligent Kids Facebook group. Yes. That is 2 words, awesome. Absolutely awesome. I love it. What an awesome, goal, desire, initiative, community to create, because I feel like it's such an important thing. I wish, I'm just now, just a few years ago, very intentionally, we started our EQ journey, and I wish I had started when I was a kid. So the fact that you're doing this at an early age is such a blessing for the families. And you are literally, Steph, changing and impacting family legacies. So that's a tremendous, goal, project, initiative for families to be emotionally healthy, so that these children, this next generation of adults, will be raised emotionally healthy and emotionally fit and much more functional, high performing, high achieving, high living, high contributing human beings as a result.
It affects every area of life. I can't think of one area of life that having a high emotional intelligence doesn't affect, doesn't help, doesn't impact. So yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Okay, now I don't know, we actually spent a couple weeks in Australia back in June of last year. We started out in Sydney for a couple days, and then we went to Perth, the West Coast, for a handful of days, and then we came back and finished out in Melbourne, and absolutely loved Australians and our trip, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. So just bear with me. Let me start off with some humor here. Now, obviously, we understand the seriousness of what's going on, and it's a very serious deal. We've got a number of friends that have been impacted directly and indirectly by the coronavirus and stuff. So please know that I'm not trying to make light of the seriousness of what's going on. I feel like it's important to have some levity amidst seriousness. It kind of helps to deal with and cope. So I just want to just share a little bit of humor before we jump in to the mix here. So boom, just real, so memes moment, mindset, map, and Q&A here, just a little bit of an outline. So boom, I thought this was a good one.
If only it worked that way.
Yeah.
Right? Alexa, homeschool the kids. I thought this one was funny too.
That's so good. I
Day
love that.
4 of social distancing, struck up a conversation with Spider today. He seems nice. He's a web designer. And then I thought this was funny. I don't.
Kind of how it is.
Yeah.
In the homeschool world, we have lots of essential oils folks.
We all graduated yesterday.
Right?
You've got to have a sense of humor, right? Otherwise,
yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
That's a good.
Right. And then
Day 1 of working from home. My wife has already filed her resignation.
That's right. So anyway, just a little bit of levity there. Okay, now I just pulled this from one of our news stations. So 124,000 schools closed in the U.S. and 55 million students affected. So that's millions of families in the U.S. already affected, by what's going on. And we were talking with staff, and I think the U.S. is just maybe a week or so ahead of where Australia potentially could be heading.
Yeah. Most of the schools are shut down. They're saying for the next couple weeks here, but there's been honestly a lot of states that have now just gone ahead and called it, and they said we're not coming back until after summer break, and we meet again in the fall. So we're talking months. For these
Wow, because you guys are on. So your fall is our spring, right? You're talking about August, September.
August, September, yes.
Ah, wow, that's a long time to have your kids, your whole family home.
Yeah, so 5 months. 5 months. Yeah. So now if you want to jump into some of those things.
So when we first heard all of this happening here in the States, we got on and we did a Facebook Live just to share a little bit of thought process and mindset about homeschooling, because a lot of times people come at it with different mindsets. Sometimes people think, oh, homeschoolers are weird and unsocialized, or homeschooling is really hard, or it's going to be, I have to set up a schoolroom in my house, right? We think all these things and we don't really have an understanding for what it is. So real quick, just a quick background on us. We have been homeschooling now. This is our 8th year. I think homeschooling. We've been homeschooling our daughter ever since she started. Well, I believe we're all homeschoolers from when the time the children are born, right? Think of all the things we teach them. But officially homeschooling since she started in school. And we're very active in the homeschool community. We use a curriculum called Classical Conversations. It's around the world, and it's a full curriculum, but we also have community tied in with that, which we really love. Homeschoolers, here's the one thing. Let me just say this up front. Understand this for all of you who are getting ready to go into this homeschooling because of school shutdowns and that kind of thing. This is not typical homeschooling. We normally are out a lot. We have so much that we can do. We go to museums, we do all kinds of stuff. So this is really a difficult taste of what homeschooling is like, because we're never ever stuck at home as much as all of us are going to be during all this quarantine.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I think people think of homeschooling as you're in home at the dinner table or your little work table and your parents are going, so let's do the activities here. Like it obviously it's not like that. There can be nature outside, going to community shops. And so you're right. Like this is a weird time where we're actually stuck more or less at home.
Yes, very true.
For us, one of the reasons, so we chose to homeschool for a handful of reasons. One was, our faith backgrounds, we're Christians and we want to instill biblical principles. Number two, we're also 22 plus year entrepreneurs. And we want to teach our kid entrepreneurship. And in the US, they don't teach entrepreneurship in schools. And then number three, we wanted to instill our mindset and principles into our kid. Number four, we want to teach her how to think, not what to think. And number five, we wanted to teach her critical thinking skills. And so, because those are all skills that you need as an entrepreneur. And now if she wants to have a job, that's super fine. But again, as entrepreneurs, we didn't want to put her in an education system that pops out employees. We wanted to create an education system that pops out entrepreneurs. And she's 12 and she's already had 4 businesses. And so for us, that's why we wanted to homeschool. And also my wife is a missionary kid, so she grew up all over the world. We wanted our kid to have that same experience, that the world doesn't revolve around the United States of America. It's the world, right? We're all global, should be global citizens. And so we wanted for that the world is her classroom, not a desk, like you said, or a textbook, whatever. Like we learned when we were in Australia. We learned when we're talking to the garbage truck guy. We learned when we're always learning. And so we wanted the learning process and learning experience to be fun for her. And I didn't want, I'm a public school guy, and I didn't want to recreate public school at home, right? It creates so many issues and stuff. And I wanted her to grow up without a box, not with a box. And so that's one, those are some of the reasons that we've chosen to homeschool. Man. And it's been, so it's been out. And then the socialization piece, man, she interacts with our friends. She interacts with her friends. She interacts with little kids. We do jujitsu. In fact, I just interviewed one of the students that does our program, Classical Conversations, is a contestant right now on American Idol, and is crushing it. Just doing amazing. I just interviewed her actually last week, and anyway, so it's so funny that and this is so interesting too. In the U.S., right, it's big that, well, how are you going to socialize your kid as a homeschooler? And it's funny because where does it say that homeschooling a 5-year-old with 30 other 5-year-olds is the way to socialize somebody, right? So for me, we wanted our daughter. So, in terms of like being in this environment, right, where you're kind of thrust upon homeschooling, one of the big things that we want to just encourage you all is just to have lots of grace for yourself, lots of grace, lots of patience. And it doesn't need to be, and I saw some of the questions, it doesn't need to be, okay, 8 a.m. kid, you need to be out on your, out of the bed, dressed and ready for school. Now it's okay to have a routine, but not necessarily a schedule. There's a difference.
So let me just explain that real quick too. So a schedule is when you say, okay, from this time to this time, we're going to do that. And then from this time to this time, right? So it's kind of like the typical schedule that we think of in our heads. That doesn't necessarily work at home when you're doing, when you're schooling your children at home, nor do you necessarily, it's not that it's a bad thing, but what you don't want to do, like, this is a stressful time, right? For everybody. It's a stressful time for the families, for the adults, for the children, right? They pick up, they feel what we're feeling, and they feel put on them. And it is very, very difficult to learn something new when you're under stress, right? And so what we don't want to do is create more stress at home in an already stressful situation. In fact, the couple that we were talking with earlier, I asked them, I said, so let's think about this. Even if, let's just say this quarantine, this whatever, the children are out of school for 2 months, 3 months, okay? Think back to your entire, K through 12, kindergarten, your entire time that you were in school. What 2 months, were there any 2 months that were like the difference maker for you? That if you had missed those 2 months, you would not be the person that you are, you couldn't have graduated, maybe if it's your last 2 months of your senior year, but that's kind of a different scenario, right? But otherwise, no, you might be okay. And here's the thing, the younger the children are, the less it matters. Like for young children, play is learning. Play is the most important thing. If you play and you read out loud to your children, best thing you can do for them. You do nothing else with your kids when they're in school, but let them play, use their imagination, let them get bored. Boredom is a really good thing. That's where imagination and creativity is sparked. Let them get bored, let them play, and read to them. That's the best thing that you could do.
In fact, I tried to tag you. I think I sent you the link. I've got an interview with a gentleman. His name is Andrew Pudawa. Pudewa, and he's in the homeschooling world in the US, he's like a celebrity, very well-known guy, and he's got a 45-minute talk that I videoed. It's just from my camera, so my mobile, so it's not very good photo or video, but the audio is fine. And he talks about the power and the psychology of reading out loud to our kids. And there's so many layers of the power of reading out loud to our kids all the way through high school. I mean, as long, like the power, there's so many layers and dynamics there that he shares in that video. And again, I sent you that link. So if you want to share it with your audience, I feel like it would really add a lot of perspective so that, well, why would I read aloud to my kid? You know, because
they can already read, especially.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking when they can't read. I'm talking even when they are able to read for themselves.
Yeah. And there's a lot of creative ways to do it where, you know, if you have older kids where you know, each read a page or each read a chapter, or, you know, there's all kinds of ways to kind of
let them play with Legos or paint or something.
While you're reading out loud. Yeah. Let them, you know, while maybe you're outside. I saw a picture from one of our homeschool families. They were outside by a stream and the kids were playing in the stream while the mom is sitting next to the brook, next to the stream, reading C.S. Lewis, you know, Lion the Wardrobe. And like, that's school. Are you kidding me? That's memories. There's so much richness in that. You know, and here's the other beautiful thing too, is that, you know, and I love what Kathy said, every family out there, wait, let me do it this way. This is how I like to normally do it. Okay, this is money. You ready for this? This is money.
Ready.
If you're listening in the Facebook group right now, put in the chat log or the thread, write down 2 or 3 life lessons that you want your children to learn before they leave the house. So let's pretend that you could only teach your kids 2 or 3 life lessons before they leave your house. Put in the chat log, in the thread below, what would those 2 or 3 things be? If you could only teach 2 or 3 things, what would it be? Okay, now if there's any,
there's a little bit of a
delay.
Yeah.
So hopefully some of the folks in the audience are putting those 3 things. So just think about that. Think about what some of those things would be. Now, you ready for this? This is money. I love this. This is one of my favorite little exercises. Okay, so now, so let me. I'll do this, right? So for me, for our daughter, I want to say
kindness.
Okay,
kindness.
Tricia said kindness. I love it. That's great. Kindness is awesome. Respect, listening skills, kindness. That's great. Open mindset. Great, Tricia. Love it.
We've got one on the chat on Zoom, good morals and to trust themselves.
Excellent. Okay, so you ready for this? Now, name the teacher or professor that taught you that. Exactly.
Name the textbook from school.
Name the textbook. Exactly, Steph. You got it. Exactly. Right? That's exactly right. Is it, as an adult, is it, oh man, I got an F in my physics class when I was in, no, I don't care about any of that stuff. Like, that's not the stuff that makes us, contributing human beings and well-rounded contributors to society. And so, when you have this next month or 2 months or 3 months or however long, our countries are in these quarantine states, just take the deep breath. Remember, this is huge too. Okay, here's another thing too I want you to put in the chat log or in the thread below, whether you're watching this on Facebook or on Zoom. This is huge. This is huge, y'all. Why are you educating your children? Why are you educating your children? So think about that, right? Is it to get a 4.0 at Harvard, or is it to love well and live well and learn well and contribute and discover their purpose and impact the world with whatever their gifts are and their talents, with confidence and boldness and love and grace and care and all that stuff, compassion. And so just when you're going through these next, again, however long it is that we're going to be in this situation, I really encourage you, when you write down, why are you educating your children? Put that answer up on your refrigerator. Put it up on your bathroom mirror. Put it up on the front door of the house, so it's in front of you all the time. So when you're frustrated that little Johnny isn't getting his fractions down, or he's not studying Shakespeare, or he's not, doing his cursive or his spelling ABCs, just remind yourself, why are you educating your kids? Right? Take that deep breath. Is it that big a deal? Right? What's the lesson? What's the real lesson that you want little Johnny, little Susie to learn in that moment?
Oh my gosh, guys, I have to collect myself. Listening to you guys is it's so inspiring. The way that you speak with so much passion and that life knowledge and experience. I think it was before we hit record, I said to Noble and Kathy, a friend of mine saw that I was going to interview you guys, and I posted it on Instagram yesterday, and she said, oh my gosh, I've heard these guys speak. They're amazing. They're so inspiring. They are absolutely passionate. And it's one of the talks I remember. And now I can see why, because yes, we've chatted here and there. I've only really just gotten to know you guys properly over the last few days. And I see why. It's making me think, and I actually said this to my husband earlier today. I was like, babe, maybe we could homeschool. I reckon we could do it. We could do it. It's, you're almost selling it to us, because these are the values and the goals, and these are things from the heart that we want. We don't want our kids to come away knowing their fractions and knowing how to spell everything perfectly. My husband can't spell perfectly. He's got his own business. There's more to life. And I think this stuff that you're saying really, it's really resonating with us, because not just for those who homeschool all the time, not just for those of us who are now in this space where we're trying to do a bit of homeschooling to get us through to, like you said, 1 to 6 months. It's for the whole time, the whole time of our kids' schooling, when they have homework and assignments and they're getting so upset or frustrated or overwhelmed, and they're just hating school or hating life. To come back to this stuff that you guys were talking about, and these values of why are we educating our kids, that is just so powerful. I love it.
So, and that's awesome. And that's a blessing. We're thankful. So thank you for sharing that. Two other things, love and legacy. So nobody loves your children like you do. Nobody. I don't care if you have 5 PhDs in education and childhood psychiatry, and it doesn't matter how many PhDs you have, you don't love my kid like I do. You also don't know my kid like I do. Nobody spends more time with their kid than the parents do. And so from a love standpoint, that's a huge thing. The other thing is so the 3 L's, love, learning, and legacy. From a learning standpoint, I want to instill our core values into our child. And I love teachers, so this is not a knock on teachers, but as much as I love a lot of my friends that are teachers, they may or may not have the same core values that I do. And for one, I know they're not entrepreneurs because they're teachers. And that's, again, no disrespect. But, again, with our goals, we're trying to raise our daughter with an entrepreneur mindset, without a box mindset. And I want to show her, I want to model to her that I want her to love learning like I do. I love learning, and I want her to learn that. I want her to see that when she asks me, Poppy, how do I do these fractions? I have no idea. Let's figure it out, right? I told my daughter when she was 4 years old, we started this when she was 4 years old, because she'd ask Poppy, how do I tie my shoes? Or I don't remember but whatever it was, I said, Elena, I said, amor, you were in Spanish. I said, amor, I said, when I say this, entrepreneurs, you have to respond with, figure it out. So when you come and ask me a question, I'm going to say entrepreneurs, and then you got to answer,
figure it out.
And so it got her so upset, right? She asked me a question, Poppy, how do I do this? And I'd say, I'm what? Entrepreneur. She's like, figure it out. I'm like, that's right. So go figure it out, right? And so it's that critical, but I also want to show her that I don't have all the answers, and that's okay. Let's figure it out together, right? So that's the learning piece, that I want her to develop a love of learning, because then when you combine the love of learning with the tools of learning, which we use with our classical approach to homeschooling, again, with classical conversation, is when you pair the love of learning with the tools of learning, she can learn anything.
And it doesn't even matter anymore what the subject is. You could insert, when you teach a child how to learn and to love learning, now they can be self-taught.
They're unstoppable.
They're unstoppable. Anything that they want to learn, insert that into the tools and into the love, and they got it. They'll be able to figure it out at some point, which again, that's a beautiful thing, because we didn't get that in our education. It was just, here's the information, just learn it. We're going to take a test. And we were both really good test takers. So guess what? We did really well in school because we could memorize in the short term, take a good test. But I don't remember most of it. It wasn't until I was now homeschooling my daughter that I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like I learned so much more the second time around than I got the first time around, because I was doing it out of love rather than out of obligation, which it's a big difference. And we learn very differently when we're doing it out of a place of love.
That's right. Versus a place of stress or obligation or compulsion, right? I want her to learn because she loves it, not because she has to learn, right? Because as an entrepreneur, like, you got to figure it out. And I want to enjoy that process. And so thankfully, we love learning. Then the third thing is legacy. The beauty of homeschooling is, listen, the only thing that's going to outlive us, God willing, is our kid, right? Is our kids. So man, what is more important of a job than investing in your legacy, which again, in this case, is raising your kids. And I hear some people say, and again, please know I love everybody, and regardless of your station or phase in life, for us, there's just no greater spot to invest in than in my family, right? Because again, our kids are going to outlast us. And so those three things, love, learning, and legacy are three other reasons that we're doing this.
Now, let me just say this. I feel like I need to throw this in. This is my keep it real. Let's do a little keep it real check here. I will tell you this. Our daughter does not love everything that she does in school right now. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So we go to math, we go to Latin, and she's sitting right over there. She does not love the subjects. So there are some things that's part of an education. Is just, you know what, we have to have the discipline to do hard things because they're going to have an outcome in the end. That's part of education as well. So it's not like we just love everything that we have to do. But overall, you want to keep that love. Yeah.
Well, and so let me share this thing too. Again, during this time here, let's say for some folks, a very chaotic time, uncertain time, and uncertainty can kind of create some chaos. That the whole grades, the concept of grades, right? The whole academics and stuff in my public school environment. It's all about the grades. Well, think about the stress that creates, the anxiety that creates, the tension, the physical, right? We all know emotional intelligence in here absolutely can impact your physiology. And so
not only that, the self-labeling that creates, right? Because if you're an A student, okay, that might work really well for you. You'll self-label, oh, I'm smart, I'm whatever, I'm this person. But if you're the C or D person, what if you self-labeled yourself, right? And we do that, and then we carry that. Well, I just can't learn. I'm not very smart. I'm not good at these things, and we carry that with us.
And think about this: who ascribed those labels to us with grades? It wasn't our in my opinion, it wasn't our creator. Our creator doesn't ascribe grades to us. Well, you're a failure, but you're a winner, right? No, like But we allow these grades to become our identity. Well, for me, and I've got a number of posts on my Facebook page about this too. I don't care how my kid gets, what grade she gets. I could, like me, I graduated the bottom third of my class, right? And that doesn't mean, so, and I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm pursuing the passion with the gifts that God's given me. And I don't care what my grades were. No, none of my employers or businesses that I've had, I have to put what grades I got. So, the other thing I would just want to encourage you all with, that have your children at home and you're going to be doing this homeschool stuff, just again, go back to that why. Why are you educating your kid? Is it because you want little Johnny to get an A? And if you do, I just want to challenge you a little bit. Why? Why do you want your kid to get an A? Because Stephanie's kids gets an A? Who cares what Steph's kids' grades get? What grades they get? It's not. Steph's kids have different skills and gifts than my kid does, and my kid has different skills and gifts than Steph's kids do, and that's fine. That's real life, and that's okay. And so, again, I just want to bring people back to that why. Why are you educating your kids? And just give yourself lots of grace, lots of patience, and be careful also about thinking and assuming that this is the other huge tension point that a lot of people get when they begin this whole homeschool journey, either by desire or by default, is we all take our current or default mental map of what our understanding of education is supposed to look like, and we try to recreate that because that's what's known, that's what's safe, that's what we've got experience with. And so it must be right. Well, not necessarily, right? So really, and this is another huge one too for you guys. I want to encourage you. Let it look like whatever you want it to look like. But this is another big point. It's just like the airplane thing for all of you that, of course, travel around the country or the globe, whatever, is like they tell you in the safety briefings. You as parents, you've got to put your oxygen mask on first, because if you allow yourself to go south emotionally, that's gonna the greatest thing we can do for our kids is to have a good marriage and a good relationship, so they have a stable emotional platform to grow from. And so I really want to encourage you as parents to make sure you're taking care of yourselves. Husbands, if you see your wife starting to go into freak out mode, let her get some downtime, right? Do the dishes, the laundry, whatever you got to do to give your wife a break. Wives, if you see husbands are starting to go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, help them out too. And honestly, taking care of each other is what's going to help out the kids emotionally, because they're going through a transition too. It's just new. It's going to be a new environment and everything. And I just want to encourage you all as parents to make sure you're taking care of yourselves as well.
Yeah, I love that, because I remember you mentioned the other day that there may be, this is a sweeping generalization, but there may be a lot of fathers who are now not in the office but working remotely. I know there's a ton of women that are doing the same, but if we kind of look at the stats, a lot of men are not used to being home, and the kids are going to be like, daddy, and they're going to want to get on their lap. They're going to be bugging them, and potentially, the spouses or the partners or husband, wife, whatever you want to call it, you're right. They've got to kind of learn to balance and give yourselves a bit of grace and compassion that it's going to be a tough time. And I say to people, I'm like, tell your kids, buddy, we're learning as well. We've never had this before. You've got to, give us some help. Tell us what you need. If this is too much, we're learning too. We don't have all the answers. And to say that to your kids, but also to have that conversation with your partner or your spouse and just give each other a bit of grace and that's going to go a long stretch into potentially the next couple of months, where this dynamic is flipped on its head and everyone's living on top of each other.
Right. That's right. So this would be another great idea. Put in the chat log, again, if you're watching on Facebook or on Zoom, however you're doing it, put in there, how do you recharge? How do you recharge individually? So my next question is going to be different than the first question, and the answers are going to probably be different. So, because it's so important when you're going through this journey of this uncertainty and this new dynamic and new, maybe potentially new emotions that you're going to be experiencing and feeling, and maybe, triggers, that kind of thing. It's really important to have pre-planned a list that you've already got identified of ways that you recharge as an individual. Do you go on a walk? Did you lock yourself in the bathroom? Do you need to and listen to music or read a book? Or, is it you need to go for a bike ride? You need to just go drive around town a little bit. What is it that you need for you to recharge? And then the next list is put down in the chat log some things that you as a family can do to recharge. What are some family things? What are some ways? And then the third one would be, what are some ways that you know that your kids recharge? Do they need to recharge alone? Do they need to recharge together? Do they need a nap? Do you need a nap, right? That's another, oh my goodness, let me share this with you all too. Man, I'm telling you, my background's military, and I know in Australia, the military is not a big deal. There are a number of things that in the U.S. where there's some military schools that are very, very tough. And one of them was sleep deprivation, it's called Ranger School. And you don't eat or sleep for basically 2 months, so 68 days. You don't eat very much. You have 5 minutes to eat 2 meals a day, and you sleep maybe an hour or two a night if you do good on your missions. If not, you don't sleep at all. And I'm just telling you that there's a lot of families that can put themselves in that situation with sleep deprivation. There's some moms out there and dads that try to go on 2-3 hours of sleep. I'm telling you, there's a physiological and psychological negative impact on you in those scenarios. I'm a cheesy quotes guy. When fatigue walks in, faith walks out. When fatigue walks in, faith walks out. So I know for me, and this is true, physiologically, the more fatigued we get, the dumber we get. That's a physiological fact. And so be very intentional at scheduling in, even if it's a power nap, even if it's literally 7 minutes. Hey, you get the kids, even if they're watching TV or watching Barney or Dumbo or whatever, and you kick back the lazy chair for 5 minutes and do a 5-minute power nap or a 11-minute power nap, just something to recharge your brain, close your eyes a little bit, rest your body, rest your mind, and that will do a tremendous amount. So just pay attention to your energy levels as well. This is another huge one. Another practical tip here is so I know one of the questions was how long do you do school? And for a kid, think about, here's another great question. Think about this. In our education system, at least in the U.S., I was a public school guy, so 8 hours of school a day, basically. In each class, right? So in each class is 45 minutes long, 50 minutes long. How much of that class are you actually learning? Like actually learning, right? Maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, right? Because of whatever else is going on. So you don't need 8 hours a day to teach your second grader. Literally, I mean, the younger they are, the less time they need. I mean, we were done with school. I mean, it was maybe 30 minutes, maybe when she was when she was a kid and stuff. And I'll let Kathy go into that more. But that's so what I was going to say is pay attention to your energy level. So another way you as the parent can protect your own kind of safe space is, when do you have the most energy to do the school, right? So if you're a morning person, then knock out school in the morning. Don't do it at night when you're at your worst. Do it when you have the most energy. Or do you have the most energy at night? Our kid is still up, and it's almost 1 in the morning, and our kid's still up. We're entrepreneurs. We don't care. I don't care when you know what I'm saying? Our kid wakes up at noon. And I don't care. We're entrepreneurs. We can do that, right? So I like to stay up late. And so I like to hang out with my wife and kids. So I like them to stay up late, right? And we wake up when we are ready to wake up. And so my point is, you all can create the school that you want and that you need based on how God made you, not based on but Steph's doing this. I don't care what Steph is doing. That's Steph, right? Let Steph do Steph, right? An excellent book is called Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud. Is a life-changing book, one of the most powerful books on emotional intelligence I've ever read. Sorry, is Boundaries, and that's a powerful, powerful book. But anyway, build your schedule around when you have the most energy.
Well, the only other thing that I would add to that is you get to go, when you homeschool, you get to go at the pace of your kids, right? And so what that means is when your kids got it, they got it, and you can move on. So don't be thinking, oh, I have to spend 30 minutes on this. No, if they have it in 5, you're done. So it's really kind of breaking ourselves out of that classroom mentality. You're not recreating the classroom at home. Like that's, that mindset we had to get rid of really quickly. We're not trying to recreate school at home where we set up desks and all that. And some families might like that. That might work for your family, but don't feel like you have to do that because that might not work for your family. Our school happens typically on the couch. My daughter likes to do it on the floor in the living room, right? And so you just figure out what works for your family. He's got a lot to say tonight. Yeah, and one of the things, I'll tell you this, one of the things that our daughter has been doing, since we can't meet up with our friends or anything, is she's got a study buddy. One of the girls that's in her class, they get on Zoom and they do school together like this on Zoom. So they'll either be working on the same thing or maybe even working on different subjects, but they're doing it, they're getting their stuff done, but they're still doing it together. So there's ways that you can still have your children connected to their friends. If they've got friends, that they're in school with or cousins or whatever it is. We'll do study buddy sessions. And sometimes she'll be on Zoom for an hour or two with her friends. I mean, she's older, she's in 7th grade. So it's a little bit different, than if she was young. But just know that you have options and you get to make it look the way you want it to look.
Yeah, I think I love that idea of creating the home schooling classroom to look whatever fits with your family and your energy levels. And if you do still have a partner who's going out to work and coming back, then shift your day so that you can, your kids don't have to be at school 9 to 3, they're at home, and you can do that learning, you're right, in the morning or after lunch or whenever fits you. And I think, what you were talking about with more or less basically shifting your paradigms around what school should be and when it happens and what happens and how much content you have to get through. This is almost like a bit of an exciting time that we can chuck that stuff out the window and really pave our, create your own new routine around, okay, so this is the stuff. Like for my son, he's in kindy, right? So he's doing letter formation. Like he had a sheet of R, capital R and small r last Friday. He had his new sight word, which was look, and there was 2 more, I think, look at the, because obviously they're, it's the first year of school, they're just having like I, at, can, see, and a few maths things and stuff. And, we were playing dice games, and I don't know if you guys saw, a few of my friends online, because I posted a picture of my wall at home. I had stuck up with blue tack all my son's sight words, and I said, go get your Nerf gun. And we had a Nerf gun bullseye battle royale, and every time he shot a sight word, I said, pick it off, read it out, put it on the table, and we'll collect them. And we did that, a couple of times, and he loved it. Like, I think you're right. Like obviously you can't always do some of that crazy stuff in the classroom, and that's fine. But you're at home, you can create your own activities, create your own, sessions, and see what you want to get through. And I love that concept of, why am I educating my child? Is it so that they learn information that really they're going to forget after a test or whatever? Or is it that you want them to be able to have a passion for learning and be resilient and build confidence and, you know, all those kind of skills. So I love that. And yeah, I want to get across to the parents, and I think you have perfectly, to chuck out, like, question or challenge those paradigms that you have around what school should look like, because here, even if it's public or private or independent school, they're pretty much 9 to 3 or 8:30 till 3 or something, and kids are in the classroom for a lot of that time. They're sitting at desks, they're doing quiet learning, they're told to be quiet. So we all have that. That's what school is to us. But this is the time that we can kind of challenge that, not necessarily chuck it out the window, because we will have to, a lot of us will in a few months go back to that. But for now, this is our time to really find the joy in it and help our kids love learning, and for it not to be a time that they look back and think, oh, I hated that. That was terrible. Like, I want my kids to enjoy this time, you know?
And let me just speak to that. One of the things that helped me mentally get over that was to realize that there's a difference between schooling and learning. Right? Huge difference. We tend to think, oh, we learn in school and school is how we learn. That's not true. Like, we all know once we're out of school, we're still learning stuff. So that's clearly not true. So again, we need to think about, okay, so we're learning, we're not doing school. Because, I mean, I know when I went through school, there were kids who they did school, but they didn't learn anything, right? So the act of doing school is not necessarily the end game. The end game is to learn. And so it doesn't have to look exactly like it looked in the classroom. And here's the other thing. The reality is, when all these kids do go back to school, the teachers are going to know, like, they're going to know, okay, these kids have kind of been out of school. They're going to spend the first couple weeks reviewing all this stuff anyways. So guess what? They're going to get it. They're going to get it.
Yes, I love that. That's so true. And also, when you're talking about, Noble, you said, know what, I think you said what recharges you as a parent and what recharges your kids. I love that idea. And I think if we know what kind of self-care things recharge our batteries, because yes, this is going to be a stressful time and it's uncertainty, and things with our, you know, our businesses or our financial situation is an added burden of as well with our kids. I think knowing what your, you know, if you've got a partner or a spouse, know and have a conversation, what recharges your batteries, you know, so you can kind of help each other and take the load off, you know, if that's how things are going to be. And I think even a step before the recharging is know your limits or know your triggers. So for me, I've got younger kids, and my triggers are things like my kids just saying flat out no, refusing, not listening, you know, those kind of things. Like, I'm pretty tolerant and understanding with their daily activities and the learning that they have to do. But if you, the more self-aware, you know, EQ 101 is, the more self-aware you are, the more you're able to see a trigger when it's going to happen, be able to manage it, and in a way where either you're doing something yourself, recharging, or you're offloading and tapping out saying, babe, you got to do this because I just need about 10 minutes. So that stuff I think is powerful. It's going to help these, you know, all of us, our families, get through the next few months of kind of everyone being at home, living on top of each other. And
Yeah, no, that's great. That's exactly right. A couple other practical things. So I've done, you know, literally hundreds of interviews with homeschooling moms and homeschooling students and stuff like that. We're, again, very active in the homeschooling world. And one of the things that one of the moms I just interviewed last week was, I said, you know, what is one of your favorite activities that you enjoy doing with your children? And she said a couple things. She said integrating subjects. So that's kind of a classical model kind of approach to learning, again, with our program. And I said, okay, well, how do you do that? She said, well, every morning, my two daughters, we cook breakfast together. And there's the planning of the groceries, right? So there's math, there's numbers, there's home economics, there's finances, there's chemistry with the herbs and the spices and all that kind of stuff. There's you know, there's systems, there's processes, there's order, right? There's math, there's biology, there's so many different things you can do history. Where did this herb come from? What's the background of it? There's so many ways to integrate subjects just in doing breakfast together, right? Just in making breakfast, there's 5 or 6 subjects that you can bring in. There's science, right? Are you kidding me? There's all kinds of science. There's physics. There's so much that you can bring into just making breakfast together. The next one is, and I can send you these links too, something that we did for many, many years during our kids' childhood is we call it family dinner ops, because again, my military background, so everything ends with ops or operations, right? Family.
It's like, let's get dinner.
Right. And so family dinner ops and bedtime ops. So we had this system that we do for our we do either lunch or dinner together, and we had this whole system that we would do. Certain books that we would read, certain questions that we would go through to make that time more intentional and more wrapped around intention and learning. And then again, when my daughter was younger, for a number of years, I would do bedtime ops, right? Crawl in the bed with her, and I'd ask her a whole series of questions. And one of those questions, again, because our background, entrepreneurs and stuff, I'd ask her, how did you fail today? And if she didn't have an answer for how she failed, I would say, okay, well, let's go fail at something real quick. Let's go do something where we fail, because I want to reprogram. Because again, the whole education system in America anyway, I don't know how Australia does it, but in America, and if you get an F, right, that's bad. And it's negative, and you're grounded until you get your math grade up or whatever.
Failure is the last thing you want to do, right? In
right.
typical education.
Yeah, you get the big red F on your grade, and there's all kinds of studies about that, and kids going to therapy because they got a red F on their page, all this crazy stuff, right? Well, for us as an entrepreneur, we celebrate failure. I want my kid to fail as much as she can, because failure for us, that I call it in our house, professor failure. Okay, now that we failed, what did we learn from it? Not, oh my goodness, I'm freaking out because I failed. No, that's awesome. I'm proud of you. The person that quote unquote wins as an entrepreneur is the one who fails the most. Now you got, of course, making sure that you're learning from each iteration. But for us, failure is part of our classroom. It's part of our education program, if you will. So anyway, that's another thing too. Another thing too is another practical idea is really observe your kids during this time. What bents or interests or trends do they show in their learning? What piques their interest? Where do they spend time doing where they lose track of time? What puts a smile on their face? What do they do more research on their own? So pay attention. This is an amazing time of discovery to really discover new stuff about your kids that you've never paid attention to before.
And give them the freedom to go deep on that, because typically, in school are moving so fast through the curriculum that if they come up with something that they're really interested and fascinating, they don't even have time to dig deep into it. But you get the opportunity now with some time. So.
This is money too. Is when you observe you observe those little things, their bents, their interests that are piqued, affirm them. You want to talk about emotional intelligence? Affirm their strengths, affirm their gifts that you observe in them, and talk about it. Hey, our daughter, she's very decisive. And that's something I never was. I was never decisive because I'm a recovering people pleaser addict. And so I was never decisive, right? And so it was shocking to see my daughter as an early little kid. She'd make a decision and she knew the decision that she wanted to make. And I said, man, I've always told her, okay, what, and now, it's one of the things I did. So as I was affirming this, I built a list of all the different strengths that I've observed in her. And that's something that I wanted her to memorize and learn about herself. So that way she's not, as an adult, how many adults have I talked to as an executive coach, for a number of years? I'd ask people, what are your strengths? And they'd look at me like a cow looking at a cell phone. Like, and so like, I have no idea what my strengths are. I want my daughter to know immediately, these are my strengths. These are the areas that I need to work on. Right? I don't want to tell her, oh, she's great at everything. She's not. I'm not. Who is? There's nobody that's great at everything, right? So I want her to be confident in who she is and what her strengths are, what are the areas that she's got to work on, and be confident in those areas, right? And be aware, right? Be self-aware in those areas as well. So there's so many things. Listen, y'all, this time together is literally a blank canvas. What do you want your children to learn and discover and adventure and imagination and creativity? And this is such a gift. It's such a gift that I feel so many of us have been given. And I'm just excited to see how your families are strengthened and what you discover from your children during these times, and the superpowers and the connections and the things that are going to be revealed over this time is going to be life-changing. I'm telling you, it's going to be exciting.
Oh, I love that. I love how you said this time is a gift, because how many of us get stuck in that mindset of stress and overwhelm and that anxiety, because there's so many other factors at play that we miss, that this time could be a real gift for not just us, but our kids and us as a family as a whole. There's so much we could do with this time. And if we just shift our mindset by thinking, what do I want to achieve with my kids? This is a blank canvas. I love that. And this is a gift. How am I going to use it? Doesn't that automatically flip your, like you said, your physiology, and you raise your vibration? You think, wow, what am I going to do? Like, what can we do tomorrow? What can we go out into nature and observe? Or what can we cook that's going to be amazing and we'll tick these boxes? So I think shifting our mindset, if we can, to look at this time as a gift. And you're right, to give yourself some compassion around, we're not, a lot of us are not teachers. We are still managing our own work half the time. I just saw a comment on Facebook from Sashka saying, what about kids with just one parent? So there's so much, it's hard to not, we don't want to get stuck in that. This is going to be so hard. How am I going to do it? It's probably going to fall flat. All those, the below the line kind of thoughts that just really spiral, and they're not helpful. There's so much, we can reframe those thoughts and think, I've got this. It's a blank canvas. This is a gift. How do I want to spend this time? And you guys are making such a good case for that. I love it.
and so go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say this one thing, because yes, when it's just you, obviously you don't have somebody that you can tag team with when you need a minute or you need 10 minutes or something. So that's a reality. One of the things that we did, especially when our daughter was younger, is we implemented something called quiet time, right? And what that meant was, for her, she had to go be in her bedroom on her bed. She didn't like, when she got older, she didn't have to take a nap if she didn't want to, although that was okay. But she did have to be in there on her bed, entertaining herself quietly, right? And so what that did, it does two things. Number one, it gives you a little bit of a break, right? So you can go take your power nap or work if you're working from home or whatever. But that time, that quiet time alone, is really good for kids. It's really good for them to have to entertain themselves, because what happens is they start to like their own company, right? They start to not have to feel like they always have to be constantly entertained by somebody else or be around somebody else. They start to be okay with just who they are. And then, like I said earlier, let a little bit of boredom set in, because now they'll start to get creative and they'll start to do some of those things. So don't be afraid to implement quiet time. If you need to do it in the morning and in the afternoon, like, you get to create those things. It might be a little bit hard the first day or the first, couple times while they're getting used to it, but it will pay off big time, especially if you need some time either to work. Not that the kid can be sitting on their bed all day. I'm not talking about that, but just short periods of time based on the child's age, maybe spread throughout the day so that you can do what you need to do.
And Steph, do you mind if I help reframe one of your thoughts that you mentioned earlier? Okay. Yeah. You shared something that I want to maybe give you a different perspective on. So you said that, we're not teachers, and I completely, absolutely 100% would tell you that you absolutely are a teacher.
You might not have that as a job title, right?
Because here's the deal, right? Because this is, and I'm glad you said that, because so many people have that limiting belief that, well, I don't have a degree in education. How can I teach my kid? Ready for this? Who taught your kid to walk? Who taught your kid to talk? Right? So who taught your kid manners? Who taught your kid, think about, before they even start school, how much stuff you teach your kids. Are you kidding me? So it's such and please don't take this the wrong way. It's because this is a society, this is a cultural thing. It's a way to keep parents limited and in bondage, because the number of things that we learn from our parents that don't have teaching degrees, in my opinion, the most valuable stuff that we learn in life is from our parents who don't have master's degree in education and PhDs from Harvard or Yale or whatever. That's a bunch of crap. Like, we teach our kids so much. So just embrace that. No, you are a teacher. You're an amazing, you are the best teacher for your kids, in my opinion, because no one knows your kids like you do. Okay, another thing too, it's another fun kind of creative thing, is one of the things that we would do during our bedtime ops, and this is not in the video that I shared, but this is one of the things that I'll share that we would do with our daughter. We would play this game with each other. We would say, okay, so I would say, okay, is it your turn to go first, or is it my turn? So let's say it's my turn. I would say, okay, you've got 3 things. You got to pick 3 things: a dragon, a banana, and a butterfly. Tell me a story. And so now she had to take those 3 things and tell me a story from the dragon, the butterfly, and the banana. And then she would say, okay, Poppy, that's, my turn. Now it's your turn. You get a bicycle, a taco, and a wrench. Tell us a story. Tell me a story. And so I'd have to come up with a story. And you want to talk about, growing creativity and, it's so rich, the quality time. And, okay, now I want to hit the question about, okay, what about single parents? So 2 things I would say is create community. And in this case, now the season that we're in, create virtual community for you and for your children. We all need, and even if you're single or not single, we all need community. That's why we love our particular homeschool program, again, Classical Conversations, because we meet in community once a week. And so we have, have community, your neighbors, your friends, whoever it is, and set up times, and also give permission to your circle, your social, your community. Hey, Steph, if you haven't heard from me in a couple of days, can you reach out to me and just see how I'm doing? Right? Give your community permission to reach out and see how you're doing. Right? These are, we're all going in kind of uncertain times right now. So it's important to go into this uncertain time with an established, predetermined, pre-planned support network, so that you're not going into this alone, both you and your children.
I love that. That is so good. I think that kind of lends into setting that intention of having that community, finding a community if you don't have one, reaching out to one. It might be family. Even like you said, now we're in virtual communities, and even before now, we can reach out to people if they're in the US or if they're in the UK or anywhere, because we have things like these platforms, the internet, Facebook, Zoom. And I think once we reach out and have that intention of, I want to be connected, and I want that support for my own mental health and my own self-care. I think we, as parents, even not even single parents, people with a partner or someone else at home to lean on, we need that support, because this, this is a tough gig. Parenting can be tough, and there are times when we just want to lock ourselves in the bathroom with a chocolate bar, or maybe that's just me. But so I think, look at what recharges you, what you need yourself for your own mental health and your own support. And if that's other people, reach out, make those connections. And even on Facebook now, there's groups, millions of groups. You can find a group for expat Chinese parents in Sydney homeschooling. There'll be a group. So reaching out and getting those support networks, I think, would be really good.
One thing on that, just one thing on that. One thing that we do, so you're a part of a number of groups. I'm a part of a number of groups. In the group that I run, one of the groups that I run, we do a weekly on Friday nights. We do a weekly mix and learn. So it's a social mixer and learn. It's because I'm a passionate learner, and so every Friday night, for whoever wants to, we get a handful of people and we share. Okay, how's the week been? How are you doing at coping? How are you feeling? What emotions are you experiencing? What new insights have you learned? And it's just really good connection that the adults can look forward to, that we're going to have a hangout Friday night where we're kind of having conversation, and, and I do lives in my community and stuff like that, just again, to show my face and give encouragement and that kind of thing. So, as leaders and influencers, you can help create that community as well in, let's raise emotionally intelligent kids, just as an example. Is another great way to do it. And I also using, another practical hack, Marco Polo. So one of the things, I've got an accountability group that we send daily accountability messages to each other every day on Polo. It's 1 to 2 minute daily message. This is what I read. This is what I listened to in a podcast. We share our insights with each other. And so we are so connected with some of the different, communities and stuff that we're connected. We are so connected in a time when a lot of people aren't. And so you can create that if you want to.
I love that. That's so good. I think there was a couple of other questions. I'm just having a look. I think we've kind of covered some of them. Karen said, what's a good loose routine for each day? And Mary said, how many hours a day does it take for homeschooling? And I think that, they're real questions, because we have this concept of home, like you guys have just smashed that. But everyone has this concept of, got to do work at school, and we're getting work sent home to us from the teachers online on Google Classroom and things like that. But I feel like you guys have kind of answered that, what a loose routine looks like, and how much time that it seems, you're right. In a class of 30 kids, you've got to keep up with the kids who are, struggling sometimes to retain some information or learn. At home, it's one-on-one or one-on-two, or it's such a different pace, and you're focused just on your 1 or 2 or 3 kids. So it's different dynamic, isn't it?
Anything
yes. No, the only other thing that I would add to that is because at least here, different families have been in different situations. Some of them, the school system has stuff for them, right? So they might have online classes for them. They might have a curriculum that they have sent home. They might have expectations. So that's a very different scenario than other people in school systems. They don't have that, and so they're having to just kind of figure it out. So the way that I would address those two things is, this is just me. This is just for me. If it was us in this situation and we had to do stuff from the school system and they were providing it, I would do the minimum necessary to get through, because again, not trying to create extra stress. I would say the minimum that your child can do without creating extra stress, right? So look at your kid. You may have a child who's like, I love this. They're all in. They love school. That would have been me as a kid. I would have been the one like, I love this. This is awesome. Fabulous. But just watch your child, right? And so if your child gets the minimum done and that's all that they have the stamina for, then let that be enough, right? Let that be enough. If you're in a situation where you don't have that and you're scrambling for resources, just know there's a ton of it online. Like the one of the hard things about homeschooling these days is there's just too much information. There's too many resources and you tend to kind of get bogged down. So really just look at your child and say, okay, so what do we need to do? And typically that's keeping up with reading and math. I mean, honestly, for most children, if you keep up with those two things, they're going to be golden. And so just go online and don't necessarily try to find, tons of stuff. Find what's perfect for your child, for the age that they're at, for the grade that they're at, for what you feel like they need, and let that be enough.
Yeah, awesome. That's so powerful. I love that you guys have just, for me at least, kind of smashed through some of those beliefs or paradigms that I have around what homeschooling looks like and what the point of it is, or what the purpose, of teaching and helping our kids learn is. I think hopefully for other people who are watching along, or even if you guys are listening to the replay, I hope these kind of conversations just show a different perspective and a different way of looking at us as being, we're teachers. Like Noble said, I love that you called that out and said, hang on, we are, because you forget and you get stuck into those paradigms around, well, I'm just a mom, or I'm just a dad, or I'm a CEO, or I'm work at Macca's or whatever. What can I teach them? Get rid of that. And I love that you guys have, it's almost like your message, and you're bringing it out to hopefully a whole lot of people. I'm just so thrilled that you guys could take the time. It's bloody, 2 a.m. or something. You're probably like, yeah.
We're good.
But yeah, I really appreciate it.
Staff, we really appreciate it, for the opportunity. Again, thank you for the impact that you're having in your community, in your Facebook group and everything that you're doing. And I'm super excited to interview you on EQ for Entrepreneurs podcast. But thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah, I wanted to say, if anyone wants to find out more information about you guys and what you do, or wants to listen to your podcast, or contact you, shout it out. Let us know where we can find you, where we can find more information. What else? I know you guys have a podcast and a website, and you do speaking. And what are you guys doing in the next few months? Are you working on anything, or coming out? Are you going to do any traveling? Hopefully once this all dies down, let us know where we can get more info about you.
Yeah, well, the best places to find us is on Facebook, Noble Gibbons, Kathy Gibbons. You'll find us there. Our website is EQ for Entrepreneurs. EQ for Entrepreneurs is the name of our podcast. One of the things that we did just create, if we have any other entrepreneurs on here, we've been business owners since 1997, so for a long time. So we were business owners through Y2K, through all of that, through September 11th, which happened in the United States. There was the 2008 stock market crash. So we have been business owners through some really big crises in the past. And so we just created a guide for how to have resilience, right? Because we teach emotional intelligence. That's what we teach, just like you. Just our audience is typically for our business owners and entrepreneurs. And one of the things that we learn through that is resilience. You have to develop the skill of resilience to make it through hard times. So we just created that. If you go to our website, if anybody's interested in that, it's totally free. You can check that out. But yeah, we'd love to connect with you guys. We are big on teaching EQ. We're big on homeschooling and family. And so this was kind of the perfect meld of both of those for us. So it was an honor for us to be able to share with your audience.
Thank you. I so appreciate your time, Noble and Kathy. Thank you so much. And also, I think we were going to have the replay of this session for those of you who might have missed the start, or not been able to catch us today. So will the replay go up on the Facebook group?
So it's live there. So it'll stay there.
Stay there.
Okay. All right, cool. Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. All right, I'll let you guys go to sleep.
Oh,
And
no
I'll let
sweat.
everyone else in Australia, we'll go and chuck some dinner on
There you go.
on the
Awesome.
barbie.
That's right.
All right, no, I'm kidding.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much,
Thanks,
Steph.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.